China is not our ally. China are one of our greatest enemies. The fact that we rely so heavily on them, it says more about us than it does them. The fact that they won't condemn Russia is negligible because they're enacting a genocide over there. There's ethnic cleansing happening in China right now that we are supposed to be condemning, yet we're supporting their economy. There's slave labour going on in China right now. In fact, that's probably the reason we have such a heavy reliance on China, because everything is so cheap, because they have slave labour over there. Yeah. The fact that the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, censor anyone who speaks out against any of this stuff, and we are supporting that regime indirectly, says a lot more about Great Britain than it does them. I think, of course, we should cut ties. Of course, we should bring more manufacturing back over here. I don't believe that we can blame the Conservative government. I think it's the free market. It's people see cheap, dirty labour abroad and go for it. So we need to incentivise people to spend over here, buy British, and invest in British agriculture, British architecture, British industry in general, and not just farm it all out.
So HS2, I mean, the big contract that was, I mean, 2.3 billion, I think. They had one British firm shortlisted and actually it's a culture change that we have to have in Britain, that we encourage. I mean, you know, look at the PPE contracts that sort of went all over the place and people were making millions. And it seems that we can privatise our companies and we can have French government owning things, you know, the Chinese government owning things. But I mean, and actually the government, we've got to change the way we do it.
I do agree on that. So we spoke out about Huawei, we spoke out about 5G when they were relevant topics. And I said at the time, we should not be letting the Chinese invest so heavily in our infrastructure. Of course we should bring it in-house.
We've just sold a microchip company to them.
Well,
I mean, yesterday.
It's not just that, though, is it? It's also some of the great buildings in this country as well that we're selling off to Chinese companies as well. It's our infrastructure that we are selling. It's not just our manufacturing base. And I think that's a very worrying trend, actually. And I have no idea why we're still giving foreign aid to China. I mean, I just find that just ludicrous.
It's bonkers.
That we're doing that. And they must be laughing at us doing that. They just think, oh, well, the English, the British people are stupid. We're just going to take that. You would if somebody hands you money. But yet we are so reliant. And as you mentioned, the pandemic, PPE, we didn't even have our own PPE. It was pathetic that we couldn't do that. And
I think, isn't it? The virus came from China, and we were spending so much money in China for the PPE to protect ourselves against this virus.
That's the thing. And I think we only need to look at Vladimir Putin and Russia and see what's happening with Germany to really start to have a rethink about how we're organising things.
And no one's talking about the empire building. China is building the biggest empire it's ever had at the moment. It's investing heavily across the African continent, but also across the Caribbean. People are calling for further independence, as they call it, in countries like Jamaica and Barbados, the countries that are already independent. And what they're actually suggesting is cutting ties with Britain so that they're free for China to invest more heavily and take over.
Actually, the real thing, in Senegal, there's an amazing statue looking over the sea about liberation. It's built by the Chinese. I mean, it's just incredible.
But in your view, then, how can we kind of incentivise? Because it's partly our fault, right? As consumers, we're like junkies. We're sort of going for a quick fix. My daughter's constantly buying these, I'm sure they're all flammable, clothes from this awful store that she gets stuff from China, you know, because she gets her pocket money and she's got this Go Henry thing and she can buy things online. It's her own thing. It comes through me. I'm still paying for it, obviously. And she loves she goes, yeah, cheap fashion, and she's calling it. And we are partly to blame.
I think it's really difficult to do it from there. I mean, I remember, because I'm older than both of you, I mean, I think it was in the 60s, there was a Buy British campaign with lots of Union Jacks. The problem is, so here we have, you know, the perfect storm. We are in a massive cost of living crisis. And then we're saying to people, I know British manufacturing's a bit more expensive, but can you do it? And actually, it has to be government-led. It has to be government-led, saying that for these big public projects, like HS2, for instance, you know, we buy British, because that way we employ British people. It's a win-win-win, and that's what we need to change.